question for you. What is society? Is society an attempt at getting, for the most people, the most happiness and freedom possible? Politically, there's many different parties, as everyone is well aware. The communists claim that they're working for the betterment of the majority. Capitalists claim that they're working for the greater economic freedom of the majority. People everywhere claim that they have the means, they have the way to get the majority of their people, or in communism's case, or capitalism for that matter, the majority. The people universalize what's the best way for the vast majority of people. Philosophically speaking, that's called utilitarianism. Lots of people espouse that view, particularly a lot of secular atheists. And that's, of course, one of the great ironies, is that utilitarianism, which is the greatest happiness for the greatest number, or the greatest freedom for the greatest number, is actually, paradoxically, as Tom Holland explains, a product of Christian morality, Christianity, but specifically the morality part of Christianity. You see, people get rid of their religion, as I've talked about, but they keep the morality. And so we have various types of political systems that appeal to this love your neighbor sort of thing, the greatest happiness for the greatest number. But Nietzsche proposes a very different idea. And what do you think, dear viewer? Of course, this is not a debate or an argument, but just a question. What is your philosophy? I would propose that the vast majority of humans, as a product of Christian morality, hold a deeply cherished view. Deeply cherished, but yet never articulated, which is we ought to shoot for what is best for everyone. The vast majority, whatever the greatest, whatever you prize, whether you, and people disagree about, should we pursue happiness, freedom, should the far left advocates for offending as few people as possible, and the communist types, and then there's as I mentioned, the libertarian capitalistic types who want the greatest economic freedom for the majority as possible. And that is everyone's deeply rooted assumption, which no one ever articulates. The greatest happiness or the greatest freedom for the greatest number. Nietzsche proposed a very different idea. But before I get to that idea, I guess fascism, particularly ethnic fascism, like for instance Nazism that emerged in Germany, advocated for only the happiness for a particular type of people, a particular race. But even then, even they were in a sense caught up in Christian morality in the sense of the greatest happiness for the greatest number of their particular tribe. It was ethnic, it was racial. Greatest happiness for the greatest number. But what of the idea, what of Nietzsche's idea, which was the reason for society is not at all for the greatest happiness, for the greatest number, whether that's salvation of the soul, or whether that's economic prosperity, or equality. What if it was none of those things? What if the reason society existed was in the hope that one day a certain type of human would emerge, or a certain idea would emerge? What if humans are in the dark still on many things? As Nietzsche said concerning ourselves, humans, we are not knowledgeable people. What if the point of society was that so new ideas would emerge, or certain types of humans would emerge? What if the existence of society, with all its thousands or millions of people, the whole point of it all was so a certain type of human would emerge, or a certain type of an idea would emerge. What if all of life, with all its pain, struggle, and agony, what if it was just actually looking for a certain type of human to arise? And what if all the agony, all the ecstasy, all of it could be justified in the arising of a certain type of person or a certain type of idea, or maybe both? And what if that was not ethnic, it was not racial or anything like that? But what if it was psychophysiological? And what if it was not technological? Not technological, not transhumanistic, but just purely an idea. An idea or a type of person. A psychophysiological disposition. A new type of human. What if all of this was just for that? What if nature itself was experimenting and trying to head towards that type of an individual? God, per se, or the universe, nature, whatever. What if this was a grand experiment? And we all get so deeply offended when people's rights are trampled on, when there isn't equality, when there isn't economic equality, prosperity, etc. We're all arguing about the best way to make the greatest number the happiest, or the most prosperous, or pick your virtue or goal. As the Americans set out more explicitly, what I think they called it the pursuit of happiness and liberty. But what if all of that, even the pursuit of happiness and liberty itself, could be justified with all its successes and all its failures, as long as a certain idea comes forward, as long as a certain type of person comes forward? All the poverty and all the riches, all the triumph and all the struggle. If one type of person emerged out of 1 million or 1 billion, what if that was the point? Or one idea emerged out of millions of ideas? If that one idea could emerge just once, and if it could be kept alive, would that justify the whole existence of all societies on planet Earth? Nietzsche, I think, challenges us to think that maybe that is, in fact, the case. What do you think?